Hi everybody, welcome to or back to Building the Bookshelf. Happy to have you here today. If you are just joining us for the first time, we are picking some of my favorite titles that maybe you have discovered or want to rediscover to add to your personal bookshelf and your library at home. Now, one of the questions that I've had is, why are you shooting videos for every title separately instead of just kind of including them all into one video? And honestly, it's because I realize that not everybody may be interested in all of the titles, and sometimes you might just have a couple minutes, so you're just looking for a quick little bite for something. So that's why I have them separated out instead of having a much longer form video. If you guys prefer the longer form videos, please let me know. I'm happy to do that for you as well. So today we are talking about Deep Dish by Marc Malnati. Now, anybody that is in the West Coast or Chicago area or visited, have traveled to, you are very familiar with Lou Malnati's. They're one of the most famous deep dish pizza chains in the Chicagoland area. Lou was Marc's father, so this was written by his son. I was fortunate enough to meet Marc at a signing event for his book when his book came out. And, honestly, the book was different than I thought that it was. A lot of times we hear these stories and, it was hard at the beginning, but we overcame those initial challenges and then just became a runaway success. And that was not the case with Lou Malnati's at all. There were a couple of things that really stood out to me about just the Malnati family as a whole. Now, I'm not going to get into the deep dish controversy. I know that is a very polarizing topic for a lot of people. Personally, I like deep dish. I think that everyone can have their own form. I think you can have thin slice from New York and you can have Detroit style or pan or whatever it is that you like, and they don't have to be in competition for who's the best. I think they're all in their own category, so for what it's worth. But aside from the pizza itself, Marc was thrust into this business when his father passed away. He was only 22 years old and had to all of a sudden take over the family business, obviously very young. Yes, he had seen some of the business workings and happenings through his father, but he was not ready to take on the business, nor did he even know if that was the path that he wanted, but that was kind of the hands that were dealt to him. So he made the most of it and then worked on building it from there. One of the things that stood out to me, the first thing that he said was that he wrote this as kind of a love letter to his grandchildren. So while he could still remember a lot of the details to make sure that they understood the history of where they came from. Some of the family is involved in the business, some of them are not, but he wanted them to understand the history of where he came from. And he did not have the easiest of childhoods coming up. Again, it was just kind of a little bit of a different time. And so he does explore that in the book as well. So I love the fact that it was a love letter to his children. The other thing, and I will include the link below, but one of the things that they brought to the book signing were these little hearts. This is something that his wife has started. She has a foundation. She was also a teacher and a psychologist, so she has a whole history of all the things that she's done, but they have these little hearts that you can order online, and they brought one for everyone at the book signing to share, and it's kind of meant to be like, hey, you give a heart to someone, you let them know that they're special, that they matter, and then go get a heart and find someone else who needs a heart, and just kind of spreading it around and having that be a mission. And they have a very, very cool website that kind of explores what they do with the donations for these, and then all of the countries that these have traveled around to. And it was just very special. I got very kind of emotional even when they did it. So I have my little heart that I have kept from that experience. And like I said, I'll share their website here for you all to take a look at as well. So those are a couple of things that really stood out to me from the book signing itself. But from the actual story, something that really resonated was the fact that they failed and almost lost the business multiple times. It wasn't just we had a really hard time and had to overcome it, and it's been smooth sailing and now we're millionaires and we have all of these locations, and that everything was fine and dandy at that point in time. And even recently they talked about locations that they opened even after doing it for all of these years now. He's in his 70s now, so he's been doing it for 50 plus years, and still had locations that have failed recently, and having to accept that and having to move past that, and not looking at it as a failure. And obviously the bigger that you are, the more of a target that you have. People are expecting that you're going to be successful in everything that you do, and that's just not the case, and having to accept that. So I really appreciated how humble he was with that, and even just talking about the turnover that they have and the engine that they need to have for all of the staffing, that they're employing 1,500 people, or they're replacing 1,500 people in a year. was mind-boggling to me to think about that level of things from a business standpoint. You have all of these locations that you're trying to have the same experience, right? You want to have the same taste. They take the quality of the food extremely seriously. And when you have a brand like that, they're, everyone is going to expect that the experience is the same. And so maintaining that quality across locations, it's a heavy undertaking. And, obviously they've had investors and things who have come in since then, but the heart of the business was what I appreciated the most. So grab yourself a slice of pizza. They ship if you're not local in the area, and read a little bit about the Malnati story. I think it is just kind of heartwarming. And again, the sacrifices they made as a family, or, he tells a story about that he, passed out when they were just doing it kind of food truck style, and, because he was exhausted and working 7 days a week. And, someone that has that kind of a work ethic is not something that you hear all of the time. So I think it was inspirational from that standpoint. I think there were some tips just from a business standpoint. And then, like I said, there's a lot of heart behind that story. So give it a try. I think it might be one that is off, your radar, obviously if you're not, local to the area. That's where I think they were promoting the book the most. So see what you think about it. Love to hear.